Hello and welcome everyone to the Artist Talk today at the exhibition Resonant Realities with the artist Evelyn Bencicova. We will be speaking to Evelyn in a second, but first we will have a little introduction to the VR Art Prize and to the show Resonant Realities. And the VR Art Prize was launched last year in May with an open call to VR artists living in Germany. And we received 104 applications from the artists. And out of them, 5 positions were chosen to be exhibited here at the Haus am Lützeplatz in the exhibition Resonant Realities. And here in the show, each artist made a VR artwork that you will find in a VR headset on each installation. And each virtual reality artwork is embedded in a site-specific sculptural or site-specific installation. And I will now talk a little about the exhibition and introduce each artist quickly before I switch and talk to Evelyn. So the show is called Resonant Realities because of the 2 worlds resonating in each other, the virtual and the physical world being here together in the space. And while watching the virtual artworks and experiencing the physical space, everyone can understand more about the conditions of both worlds, which I both consider as real and therefore also resonant realities. And the artwork Image Technology Echoes by Lauren Moffatt introduces how images and how we see images is dependent from the medium the images are displayed in. For example, a slide projection, a virtual reality work, or a painting. And then we have the artwork Aporia by the artist Patricia Detmering. And there we sit in the middle of a world made of watercolors by the artist and we see avatars walking around, doing their business and learning about their individual and collective power structures. And then we also have the installation Polymesh by Banz Bowinkel, where we meet visualizations of the algorithms and bots that surround us every day on social media, but which we cannot see there. But in the work of Banz Bowinkel, we can finally encounter them personally. And then we have the artwork The End Serial by Armin Keplinger, with 4 sculptures in the physical space and 4 sculptures in the virtual space. And Armin Keplinger discusses the conditions, or better also possibilities, of sculpture in the virtual realm. Well, and I sit here in the installation by Evelyn Bencicova, Joris Demnard of Ikonospace, and Arielle Esther. And I'm really happy to talk today to Evelyn. Welcome.
Welcome, and welcome also everyone who is welcome everyone who is listening to the talk, and thank you for the invitation and for the introduction, Tina.
Thank you. So good to see you. Well, I sit here in this wonderful installation surrounded by really monumental photographs hanging on a fragile scaffolding. And I thought maybe to start over with would be a great idea to talk about each photograph first, because I know it's serious and you have an overall topic. Maybe, you tell us more about the topic and already start with the first photograph then.
Okay. So the project, as you mentioned, is called Artificial Tears. This project started longer time ago, I would say around 2 years ago, as a photographic project. The photographs, there were many, but a couple of them I selected for this installation, and I will continue to speak how this all development from photography to VR happened later. But originally I started to photograph this project in my hometown in Slovakia, Bratislava, and one photograph is also from Vienna, where I studied. And the basic idea of the photographs was, or my interest why I started with this project, was thinking what is the difference between human and a machine. This could come from like different starting points. I think absolute starting point, to be honest, was my own feeling, which kind of encouraged me to think about this topic further. And it was my own feeling, sometimes of feeling like this character, which I tried to portray in the series also. It's an anonymous character, which represents rather a feeling than a specific person. That's also what I'm saying. And it was that me as a human, sometimes I caught myself in the actions which I felt that I can't fully reason why I'm doing them. And it was some kind of outsider feeling that I'm observing people, humanity around me, who might be doing also actions which are not really reasonable, or like which we just do out of habit. And I kind of copied them. And like in each of the photographs, which is then connected with virtual reality, it deals like with several topics, which are not just about this difference between human and machine, but also about this topic of female machine, to which I came later when I was doing the VR. Maybe I would want to say also about this character. So for me, it's obviously a female character, which when I was photographing came for me kind of naturally because I'm female, maybe. And I usually also work with female characters. And this is also something why I felt I want to continue and transform this work into VR, because suddenly that I put their female character to question difference between human and machine seemed problematic for me, about which I can speak later, of course, but now we are speaking about the photographs. So when I was photographing, this character is always anonymous, even though it's present. So it's someone, but you can never see her face, even though you can see her body, her appearance many times, even multiplied. It's not identified as any specific person. That's for various reasons. One is because, as I said, it represents maybe rather feeling or position than a person. The second thing is that I want it to be anybody and everybody at the same time, nobody. So everyone can kind of put themselves in this character. Visually, it is a reference to the character of Tara Android. I don't know if you are familiar. This is kind of YouTube video phenomena of this female robot, which is also seen as a myth. Some people consider it creepy, but I found it interesting. And that also took me there to this whole question of female machine. It's a female robot who is created by someone, and she is always performing this task, either acting out or singing. And her sorry?
Well, but she's not created by someone, right? She's created by a man, and it's also clear if it's a robot, but it also looks like a puppet also.
It looks like a puppet, something like between Marilyn Monroe and a robot. So that was for me the inspiration for the look of the character. In the topic, in the pictures themselves, I think it's more interesting when we look at the connections of the pictures and the VR. So on this first one, on the picture, on also in the VR, it's something about seeing your own image and kind of taking the power of existence by the power of capturing. So capturing something kind of gives us power over something. It's also like a topic in photography. So in this photo, and also in what the character is speaking in virtual reality, it's about this power to capture and power to like represent the existence or something by framing it and capturing it. This would be something what this first photograph is about.
And also this kind of twist that you're at the same time the active photographer and the passive model, so to say. Would you also see this as an aspect of this photo?
Can be, for sure. You know, like you can see also nowadays, even in the fashion industry, where this was pretty much in the setting that man is artist and woman is a muse, or man is photographer, woman is a model, and like how today it's often changing, as we know a lot of female artists, female photographers, and how even popular magazines are doing this concept where women are like photographing themselves actually, which is like reversing this. Maybe it's also interesting to immediately speak, as I'm speaking about the photographs, about the VR, or should I leave it for later? And
I thought we maybe go through the photos quickly, you know, that everyone has an impression of the photos, and then we see an excerpt of the VR, and then, you know, I thought the audience can better understand the VR after seeing the photo.
Of course. Okay, so the next photo, I just thought that, like, because so I don't have to return to it in VR and speak more like about the overall VR, so maybe I just combine it somehow.
Yeah, of course.
The second photo, also taken in Slovakia, it's something about the visibility and what from us people are willing to see, what from us they are not willing to see, even as females, what we are seen from and which part are like usually not wanting to be seen. And in the with each of the images, I tried to, I will speak later like why it was important for me to do VR overall, but also how we did VR in collaboration with Joris from Ikonospace, as you said, and Arielle, Esther with sound. It was really challenging for me because I never did any VR before and I wouldn't do it alone also. And basically all the VR is based, all the VR scenes, because each of these photographs as they are installed for me kind of symbolize a specific chapter of the experience. And with each image, we try to use a bit different technique, how to make two-dimensional image into a three-dimensional experience. So how to use the technique which would kind of immerse the viewer, but at the same time it's narrative and it's not used just for the effect. So for example, with this photograph, it's kind of a mind play, because the character is constantly saying, look at me, and like not just that, but it's kind of saying, look at me as a whole, see me as this whole character, don't see me only through the small parts which you want to see. But as you are experiencing, there are hands of the character which are constantly which are constantly hiding the view. And for me, that's like symbolic itself. But what is interesting for me, that you almost don't know if you are observer, if you are the one who is observed, or if you are actually the character itself, because she has also these hands in front of her eyes. So we are always observers and observed at the same time. And I think like this topic of observing and visibility is what defines this picture.
Yeah, that's what I wanted also to ask, that about the invisibility also, because you also say that the series is also about, of course, women in the patriarchal system or society. And I wonder if this picture also expresses women being not seen, unseen, invisible in our society.
I think, I mean, definitely this has been true for a very long time. And I think now, of course, we feel that the visibility is much larger, but I think it's still, and that's also, I will come to that, why I thought it's important to continue projecting VR, because I have to be honest, for me, also when I speak about the photographs, which were created long time ago, for me, they don't work without the VR anymore, because I felt that since I took the photographs, and that's also the reason why we did the VR, my opinion on this and how important it's actually to address this like female question in this whole world of technology, let's say also, really made me to feel the pictures need a continuity. And in the VR experience, it's about the movement, about how you are placed, and also what is being said. So I wanted to this character, which is basically me in this case, because it's my voice. I wanted to give this character a voice. So this is basically what happened in the VR. And back to your question, sorry, like even if there is a visibility, of course, I think it's still, and it's definitely not just for women, but often we are presented just for certain things, and it seems like we are presented, but there are still topics which no one wants to speak about. So of course it can be also connected to something like this.
Yeah,
Then
the next image, maybe.
The next image. This image is also photographed in Slovakia. I often get questions, how is it made? Because people usually think that this is a photo montage. It's not. It's made in something like mirror maze, where there are like two mirrors placed opposite to each other, and there is a character sitting with many of her reflections. With this, we also worked in the VR, which was again like thinking how to deal with this, how to make it move in a way which would make sense. And when in the VR experience itself, the character, you will probably see it. I don't know if the whole experience is going to be played here, but or it's good that I describe it, or everything will be.
Yes, just describe it. It's perfect. It's not a whole. It's just a 2-minute clip.
Okay, so like in the experience, you find yourself in a place, and these copies of the character are appearing. What was nice for me, that we kind of really admit that it's a cutout of the photograph, what is appearing there. So it's not an avatar, and overall our VR is not meant to look very realistic. It's actually meant to transform the photograph into virtual reality, and it's very visible. So what you see there appearing is more a photograph of a person than a real person. And here in the VR experience, I worked, I mean, obviously it's about all these copies we create of ourselves. And in the VR experience, I don't know if this part is going to be played out, the character itself, it's appearing, it's also a reference to our presence or on social media or online. And you can just hear constantly, follow me, follow me, follow me. And it's basically about it. And you start to follow the character to get to something which is kind of a void. But this void also takes you to the next chapter of the story, where she addresses you with another questions. The next photograph was created in Vienna. This is the only photograph which was not made in Slovakia, in Baštalon. And yeah, this goes a lot to my original inspiration, my original thought. What is the difference between human and machine? Because how I imagine that this happens is that the human or a machine kind of freezes in the middle of doing a stereotypical task. Of course, now we can also see it as a very female task, but like when I was dealing with it, it was more about this, and how in this stereotypical task, which we do automatically, a human finds a place for contemplation or space for contemplation. And so this was kind of the departure point of this whole project. And even in the VR part, it kind of asks all these questions. What is the difference between human and machine, brain and processor, engine and heart, kind of comparing these two elements, which in my original thought, why I started to deal with it, I'm also inspired. Wow, so much to say, but it was also because right now technology, of course, is such a big topic in our lives, in our development, in where the society is going. And there is so much questions about which way it's going, about artificial intelligence, but also overall technical development, and how we fear so much of this like thinking or conscious machine. And there is a lot of talk about it. Are they going to take our jobs and so on? And basically what interested me that we are rather forgetting that we are becoming machines. You know, that it bothers us so much that machines are thinking, but it doesn't bother us that a lot of our behaviors is kind of automatic and mechanic. So I wanted to reverse this a little bit and pose these questions.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, and we also don't notice so much. We are actually surrounded by technology, and also how we repeat our societal patterns, also patriarchal patterns. You know, we also talked about this before, how machines that are supposed to serve us are connected, connoted female, like Siri or Alexa. I mean, that's also like a topic for you, right?
Yes, exactly. I can come to it, but even like I was inspired by writing of Alan Turing, which I think is like still very interesting to look at how he was also thinking, how he was posing this question, can machine think? And how for us thinking is always connected to our human way of thinking, whether we compare ourselves with non-human or like animals, plants, other organisms, or when we judge machines, because as he compared it, this test was based on imitation game. So how well machine performs in the same way like a human. And that's another thing, that like we expect intelligence to always copy our intelligence, as we are creators of it, but at the same time it also copies our prejudices, our mistakes, and our limited thinking, which I can talk about further when we get more into the topic of the VR.
Okay, thank you. And the last picture.
The last picture is kind of open, I would say. There is not so much to be seen. It's basically just this character who is under the spotlight, and she is standing in front of the closed door. And I selected this picture. The photographic series is of course much bigger, but these 5 pictures for me were the right way how to go through the story, which I developed properly in this narrative only while making the virtual reality. And this picture was for me a great chance in the VR itself, because I think photographically it's rather an aesthetical picture. It's not so narrative. And in this chapter, which is the closing chapter of the whole artificial tears experience, this is basically the point when the character comes to life, and she kind of takes the power after everything she questioned in the previous chapters, because I think the way how I'm usually trying to communicate in the work, rather than giving orders or like saying things, is, even if things are said, always posing some question, because the work shouldn't be just telling you how things are, because I don't know fully how things are. It's rather asking the audience, asking the people questions, which I also ask myself, which I would also like to ask to others. So I would say the previous chapters are mostly about that. So the character is leading you through the story, asking questions. And in this one part, and that was where I really felt I wanted to move also with the VR experience, she kind of takes the narrative somewhere else where the photographic series was, because at the end she basically says that she can think and act for herself. And in this moment, I don't know again if we are going to see it in the video here, but I would really recommend you, because you still have some days, to maybe visit the experience if it's possible for you, and just to see it through. And in this moment, the doors open and it's filled with light, some kind of consciousness it can be. So that was for me, yeah, the moment when she actually realizes that she exists, and she's not just created, not just programmed, but actually is alive.
Well, yeah, not just a machine, or not just a woman that has to obey in a patriarchal society, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Evelyn, for walking us through the photographs. And well, now I would say, dear Peggy, let's dive into the video.
What is the difference between human and the machine? Between brain and processor, cables and veins? What is the difference between disk and memory, engine and the heart? The future is not what it used to be. It is here. I don't exist just to be interpreted. I am not your dream, neither am I your nightmare. I am not your slave. I function, but refuse to perform. I am moral, not obedient. I'm autonomous, alive.
So we saw basically the middle part of the experience. It was only 2 minutes. The whole experience is like more than 7 minutes long. And yes, I of course also recommend to come here to the show until this Sunday, the 4th of July. That's the last day of the exhibition. And experience the work in the headset, which is really impressive. Okay. Or you can also check out radiancevr.co and download the Radiance app, and also see Evelyn's work at home if you have a Quest or Quest 2 headset. Well, Evelyn, I love how you embed the photos and create this architecture around them. What did we see?
Okay, so for me it was very exciting, and I mean, this was first trial with the VR, which we did in collaboration, so I will mention it one more time because it's very important for me, how we kind of connected our knowledge. So with VR, Joris Demnard from Ikonospace, and from Arielle, Esther sound, which is in the VR, but also in the physical space, which is kind of echoing through the space, inviting you for the experience. And for me, as the person who was working with photography, this was such a great opportunity to actually free myself also from the image, from the two-dimensional image where you are necessarily framing, which has many advantages, but also many, because it's easier, you think in the frame. And this suddenly for me gave me possibility to not just be in this frame and be in the space, to create with help of my collaborators, this entire space where you can move in a way which you can travel through with the guidance of this character, which we use from the photographs always like a photograph, but also I think she, when you see the VR experience, she is more even present as a voice. So the voice is the text which I wrote, which we recorded with Arielle, and in each chapter the voice also sounds a little bit different according to what it is speaking to. And for me, just this thinking that in virtual reality, you have so many narrative tools to work with. Starting with how the space look like, how the space looks like, how big you even are as the character, where you can move through, where the voice is coming from, if it's in front of you, if it's behind you, if it's inside of your head. All these things make a big difference. And suddenly we were standing in very limited time also in front of all these challenges, which, as I was saying to you, for me, the work is not photographic work, even though there are photographs behind you, and even though there were photographs used in the VR, for me, the work really got completed with the virtual reality, even though I was not ever intending to make virtual reality when I was photographing, but it really, I don't know, I cannot imagine it without it. And since this project, I'm working with virtual reality. probably that's the reason why I can speak about it positively. This would be for another discussion, of course, because I really believe in the power of the experience. And what was exciting for me every time seeing this work exhibited was also the reactions of people while watching it, but also afterwards, how actually they give themselves to the photo or lose themselves to the experience. And this I rarely seen actually with just photographs, because again, this framing of reality, not another reality, even though it's a real reality, that you are fully immersed. So for me, overall, to push this project to something like VR was big challenge, but also very positive experience. For the topic itself, as I said, this changed for me because there was a huge gap between creating the photographs and VR. And I don't know how it's for you, but for me, like in 1 year or 2 years, I always develop a lot in my opinion. Of course, it's not just my opinion. It's thanks to people whose work I'm reading or lectures, which I listen in the meantime. So these are not my discoveries. It's information which got into me, which I started to question and which I used for creating this work, which I think is something what makes art or like work of this kind important, that it can have our original ideas or our interpretation of some ideas, but it can also draw attention to topics which we consider important. Of course, it doesn't explain the topics fully. For that, you have to go on your own journey. But I think it could be the first contact or like the point of interest where people develop the interest. So what was my interest? Was that I looked at my own work and seeing this character, which, as I said, you don't know what it is. Is it she? Is it it? I was questioning a human and a machine, and that I chose this female representation for it. And suddenly, with my new knowledge, I found it kind of problematic, even not problematic, but it made me really question why I decided so. It was not a decision, it was automatic choice. And then I started to think about it and went through like different texts and very interesting lectures, which were basically dealing with this cultural notion of male creator and female machine, which is well known in literature, even in cinema. I'm naming in exhibition text several examples of where you can see this, and how this we see as something, I mean, I don't know if I should say some examples, like, for example, Olympia, Pygmalion, also like recent cinematography film.
I think that's a very important topic also. The Pygmalion myth from ancient Greek history, where Pygmalion, he's a sculptor making his perfect female sculpture out of stone. So he actually didn't like women, but then he made his own woman out of a stone, and then he fell in love finally. Wow, what a lucky guy, right? So
with his own invention.
Yeah, on his own invention. So he could love this woman, which was like totally fitting or was sculpted after his ideas. So, and this topic, it's ancient, but with Terra the Android, and that's why it's so important to refer back to Terra the Android. The whole history of the patriarchal society repeats itself also in the digital realm. You know, we just transport the same story, and Terra was also made. It's like a puppet, basically made by a man. So
and I think like even sorry, like I'm just thinking that like even how in history it used to be first sculpture, then it used to be also these stories of like some puppets, robots, where there's this like perfect woman created. In some cases she cannot speak, or like she can speak like one word and everyone likes her. And you can see so many examples of this kind, which are even till this point. But what was interesting to me, that like when we say this openly, we would say, oh, this is thing of the past, this is basically not how it is anymore. And that's where I got interested in one talk, which is basically speaking about AI voice assistants like Siri and Alexa and many others, who usually take up this female performance. And there is quite a lot written about it and quite a lot of examples. Not all of them are still actual, I think, or I hope, because of course people saw this, how these devices, which are pretty much present in lives of people, copy this idea of femininity as a servant, as someone who always obeys. There are several examples, for example, how these voice assistants react to verbal assault, where they never talk back, never stand for themselves when they apologize, actually, when somebody assaults them, and how in technology, which we can say is the biggest myth of today, of course not a myth, it's something which is pretty much present in our life, but how the patterns which are put into it, which are of course taught and learned and can be also changed, how deeply it actually affects what we consider normal, what we consider how a woman behaves, and how this reflects on some of these like problematic topics. So basically this was something which interested me and which I wanted to kind of also address in this work in the VR. I'm not speaking like in the VR, it's not being spoken about it. It's more symbolic. And this is sometimes also something which I question, because of course it's written in the exhibition text, that and I think also other artists overall and also in this show can agree that not every time you see the work you understand like, okay, this is about, I mean, you get what it's about, but you don't know like all the thought process behind it. And sometimes I really, for that also talks like this, I really appreciate, because for people who are interested, there is a chance to get to know more about it. But I think a lot of us who create work also don't want to impose our interpretation and want to keep it free. But I hope that through the works go certain feelings, certain questioning, which can lead even to thinking about this, which was what it started for me.
Yes, that's true, Evelyn. Wonderfully said. So maybe before we open up to the audience for questions, there's one last question which I actually wanted to ask you I would say since half a year, which I never asked, I will do it now. Why is the work called Artificial Tears?
Okay. Never got it asked before. Actually, no, I never got. So I hope my answer is going to be good. It's going to be freestyle. So basically, artificial tears, tears. It's tears itself. It's something which we consider like really closest to our deepest emotions, because tears is this like mysterious liquid which is created in our eyes the moment we got touched. It's how is that programmed for us as a humans that such a physical, like really tangible effect can be just just started by our emotions of happiness, sadness, basically anything emotional. And so I would say that tears itself, it's something which we connect the most to being human, being conscious, like really straight emotional expression. And that would be the question, if and there's always this question, like if it's possible to like program this on some machine. The artificial tears title was there already before the VR, so this is there from the beginning. And to think of like how you can actually program the tears to the machine if you think that machines don't have emotions. And at the same time, you know, there exists for us even something which is artificial tears, like which we put into our eyes. So it's kind of a world war, because of course it has also this function that keeps our eyes wet. So for me, the tears in like emotional symbol of something which is just reacting to our emotion, and the fact that even for us humans we already have it artificial, was something why I called the project this way. So it's, yeah, that's how I would say it right now. Yeah. I can also think about this further.
Yeah, well, I think it was a really, really great answer. And I also like this idea of artificial tears, you know, when I think of actors, you know, and they have to cry in front of the camera, and you actually don't know, you know, if it's like real tears or artificial tears. And it's like the Turing test, you know.
Yeah.
Would the actor pass it? Do you really believe that he's crying, or is it just artificial? So it's a lot about also the reference to the Turing test, and I really like that a lot.
Totally, like what is acting when it's just like copying something you know emotionally and trying to like put it in your mind and just copy it for the effect without lacking the real emotion of it. Yeah, that's also good comparison.
So then let's ask the audience, are there any questions? Well, I'm not sure if I can see the chat here, but maybe you can just open your microphone.
Can see it.
Or Evelyn, maybe. Oh.
Yeah, but there are no questions right now.
No, I closed the program. I'm back.
I will tell if there is.
Yeah.
For now, no.
Are there any questions? Well, maybe we can then talk 1 second more about the physical installation here, about the scaffolding and the sound installation, especially after seeing VR. I think it has some references too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, the fact that work can be installed in space, which I find so great overall about Resonant Realities, because I'm a believer in VR, but actually for me, VR works really best when it's in combination with the real physical space, and when you are kind of exploring these boundaries or like touching points of physical and virtual. And for my particular installation, it's that you are really immersed between all these scenarios, and it was like the size of the print or the scaffolding which really creates this space. You are entering another space, and the size of the prints was because I wanted the character to be kind of in human size. So already when you enter the installation, you enter the experience. And then in VR, you basically go from one scene to another. Of course, they are not just on the photographs, they are worked on further. But I think for the work of everyone, of all the artists in the exhibition, it's the same way, that the installation itself, it's kind of like entry point to the experience. And it's also something which welcomes you back and kind of creates this transition in a more natural way. I don't know, for me, just putting on VR at home, it's something else. You know, like you kind of do this radical cut and, you know, this is just virtual, which, you know, of course, also here. But I really like this, that there is this possibility of this passage through it and kind of preparing yourself for the experience. And big help in this is also the sound installation created by Arielle, which is a 3D sound installation in the space, which takes part of the VR experience. So it's certain parts, certain sounds, noises, which you can hear in the experience, which are already in the room. And I like also, that was the idea of the Arielle. It's not very specific. It's something more like whispering, something more like hunt. It's something which is calling you to come there. So already when you are in space, you can hear that this room speaks to you and makes you kind of curious, what is it? There are several speakers in the space. And as you move towards the room, because of course we want people to put on the VR and experience, but also we want that the person stays in the room and spends some time there or walks around. And as you are walking, the sound is never the same at any point of the room, because each speaker is also working differently. So there is this idea of even individual prints having different, as if there would be these characters in the room moving behind the prints, or like moving around you when you are experiencing. That's also how we use the sound in the experience, that the character is in a different point in relation to you. And this is something we try to do there also in the House of Mozartplatz, in our installation room.
Yes, very much. And I think it works very well. It's really a very immersive experience also when you stand here in this almost circle of photographs, I would say, with the sound installation. And so it really transports this also from VR.
And I found it really interesting also how everyone in the show, almost all of us working with the different mediums or even similar mediums in a different way, you know, whether it's photography or sculpture and painting. And I think this shows something which is important nowadays, as mediums as VR or 3D are and totally reasonable, starting to enter the art world. Because I think in general it was considered to be just entertainment or used for gaming. I'm not saying gaming is not art, but you know, like in general opinion. And on this you can see that actually it's not separated from it, and you can use your other skills, transform them, and even bring them further with using this medium. And I think this is really nicely shown in Resonant Realities.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. Yeah, I obviously think so too. And I think it also shows that even if you're a virtual reality artist, you're not free from physical realm. It's always a part of you. And in your work or your mind, you will always connect these two spaces. And here, all the artists had the opportunity to connect those spaces in their installation. And especially when it comes to work like Evelyn's, which was started in the physical with the photographs and then developed further, I think.
This is something really you pointed out, which I really liked, because, you know, that's why I like also this kind of talks, that sometimes you get question or like get opinion which didn't even come to your mind. That when you said to me that I photographed it, like it comes maybe from something non-physical idea, then it's created physically, photographed are produced, then they are put into digital space as digital photographs, then they are printed out, then there is virtual reality, so back to digital, and then
right.
to physical space, everything.
Yeah.
So I think like, and then somebody photographs it and puts it online and goes to digital again. So like
Yes.
how these spaces are today, just totally interconnected, and
Yeah.
it's also interesting how many times it kind of transforms itself. And
Yeah,
with
that's
every
very much
transformation, like also transformation of this work, I believe, it
Yeah.
gets on new layers.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. And I like it's yeah, I think that's really well important or even contemporary that that works or things or sculptures they exist in different versions in different realms
Yeah.
and continue to develop basically and yeah, I really like that a lot.
Yeah. It was really pleasure to, and it is still for a few more days to be part of
Yes.
it, because I think it's addressing something which I want to be part of addressing.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. I'm really happy that you're part of it. Your work is just awesome. The whole installation is really, really great. Well, other questions from the
I'm
audience?
checking, but there are no questions.
Okay,
Also,
then maybe one last question for tonight from my side. What are your next projects? You're working on a new VR work. Do you want to talk about it a little?
yeah. No. I mean, yes. We are working on new work, which we would like to make as a multisensory experience, which is even more strongly connected, physical and virtual, with all of our senses. This is maybe what I would say about it. We are still in the development of it, and I think like it's thinking about how to make this connection, how to make person's presence in the work even stronger, but not just on this first plane that you experience the same and the connection is strong, but actually also creating differences between physical and virtual world in what you sense, and kind of exploring how we fill these gaps with our memory, with our imagination, and all. Like, we are dealing with this on the technical theoretical side, but also we will use it on the topic which we consider socially relevant. So we want to, as always, use tools, use technology, use visual, use aesthetics, use senses, but it's all meant also for addressing the topic. So I hope soon we will finish it, and we will get some chance to present it, and I hope you will want to see it, and there will
Yes.
be a chance.
I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, there are still no exact plans, but please, fingers crossed.
Perfect. Yeah, I will cross my fingers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evelyn, for this wonderful conversation tonight and for telling us so much about your great work, Artificial Tears. And yeah, for the audience, you still have the chance to see the exhibition until this Sunday, 4th of July at Haus am Lützowplatz, Berlin. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much for, okay. Thank you so much for the comment that you found the talk interesting. And thank you, Tina and everyone, for making this happen. Sorry for moving, but I was sick last week, so I'm very happy that I could do it in more healthy state. And it was pleasure to talk with you, and happy that I hope everyone found it nice time spent.
I'm sure. Then yeah, thank you, and thank you everyone for watching, and have a great night, I would say. Bye.
Have a great evening. Have a great Thursday evening. And yeah, if you get a chance, go to see the exhibition. It's definitely worth it.